Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I can take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we're going to be discussing episode 10. But before we get into it, already go ahead and check the link down below where you can find our Instagram, our Discord, and a lot of our cool merch. So be sure that you guys are taking a look down there. But let us get into the episode. So we are finally getting into the prison break, the long-awaited revolution that seems to happen every time Cassian's around.
Yeah, that's. I think it's just what he's there for.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because it starts off like it's a lot to do with him and Kino, and Kino is kind of the leader in this whole facility, or at least on his floor, because he's the floor supervisor. But it seems like Cassian's kind of like the one that pushes him, but he doesn't really kind of like step into the role to take over his authority, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean on the prison break side, because obviously we know it's coming up. Did you pick up on the opening sequence? Music was different.
Oh yeah, that's right. Not gonna lie, I kind of skipped the opening sequences a lot, so I actually didn't hear it.
Yeah, so it was different in the way that it kind of gave the feeling of hope. So you knew something was coming, and you knew that it would probably go well for most people. But then, as the scene went, as the credits went on and went into the opening scene, when they're taking the body away, the music slows down and just becomes, one or two instruments, and again, you get the emotive side then of, okay, so things are happening, and mixing in with that Kino and Cassian trying to get things, having their little discussions as they do. It all mixes well together, which this is the first time in Andor that I've really properly picked up on that as well. But obviously, we know that music, it can give you like feelings and emotions within the scenes. So that's what, in TV and film, that's what it's designed to do. But you go from hope to kind of despair to silence, and I found that very interesting. And then, like I say, mixing in with the Cassian and Kino arguing, as it would be, it was a hell of an opening.
It's very interesting just how music kind of like really directs the emotion of a scene, and it's something that I usually pay a lot of attention to, but in Andor it's just a lot more subtle. So it's kind of like you're focused on the scene, and then you got the music just kind of like slowly building up behind it, and it's there, and it's giving you the emotional direction, but it keeps your focus on their characters, and how they do it, or how they did it, was really, really well done.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those openings, especially where you had so many different emotions hitting you, sort of one after another, and at that point you're then thinking, what's going to happen? Like, what kind of roller coaster am I getting into? And I mean, this episode was a roller coaster and a half.
No, definitely. Like, even looking at Kino most of this episode, you kind of, he doesn't have to talk much, but Andy Serkis does such a good job with his expressions, and it might just because he's so used to doing motion capture that he's just a very animated actor. No pun intended on that, but um, you can really see what's going on in his head because Cassian is just very erratic. He's like, "We got to do this. We got to get out of here. If we're not doing it tomorrow, we're not going to be doing it at all." He's like, "We have to do this," and Kino wants to do it too, but he's on a roller coaster of his own in his head because he doesn't have the confidence because all he knows is the prison. And so Cassian's sitting here egging him on, and he's like, "Well, I agree with you, but you don't really have much of a plan. So how are we going to be able to do this? What you're telling me is going to be very impossible."
Yeah, I mean, I found Kino in this episode, at the beginning, to be very, very much not sure of what the next steps are. Obviously he found out the reason why an entire floor was killed, but it's almost like initially he doesn't want to believe it, but he's got that inner turmoil happening, and the more he starts to process things while talking with Cass, the more he believes that, yeah, okay, there is a plan. It might not be the best plan, but it's a plan. And you can kind of see him changing to being, let's just do it. We'll run with it.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point because at the end of the last episode, that bomb of an information just dropped on him,
Yeah.
and you can see that he's still trying to struggle with that news, that information, because he's like, okay, I thought I was going to be leaving soon.
Yeah.
I'm almost done, but he's trying to, like you said, process the whole idea that it's like, okay, yes, I'm almost at the end of my term, but it's going to just renew on a new floor anyways.
And
And
then what will happen? It'll be the same thing again, where they'll just kill an entire shift because someone said something, and you can see the cogs in his head turning. That it is the realization of what the situation is.
the loss of hope.
Yeah. But then you've got Cassian, who's there. So, one of the quotes that sticks out to me is "Power doesn't panic," and it's because if they start the revolution, as it can be called, the prison break, the powers that be aren't going to panic. They're either going to just wipe the floor, the floors clean properly, and start again from scratch, or they're going to fail.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. So that Cassian has been planning this way before anything actually happens, and he even gets up to the cell block, and Kino is just kind of just like off on his own, and he just yells, "Nobody's getting out of here!" And I think that's when he finally like came to term.
Yeah,
With
it was
like
that
it finally
point.
sunk in.
Yeah, because Kino, he went back into his cell, I guess that's what you would call it, and he doesn't turn around. He just faces the wall, and the camera pans on him, and you see his face just going through all these emotions of what's happened. The loss of Olaf, and then going on to what is the plan, to then where he was at the moment, and you finally, like you say, the penny drops for him, and he's ready now to admit to it. To me, it came across he was admitting more to himself that nobody's getting out alive, and it came out in such an angry way because it was almost like he believed the lie of it all.
It's like, oh yeah, the Empire, they're gonna keep that word. They're putting us in
Yeah,
prison, yeah. They say
but
I'm gonna be done soon, then all right,
yeah,
I'm
I've
good.
only got a few shifts left. That's fine. I'll be out. It'll all be good. But it is you can see the reality setting in on him, and it's not a good reality.
No, live to die another day, basically.
Yeah,
It's like you're in there. It's permanent. There's no getting out now. And it's just really funny because you got Cassian, who's only been there like I'm gonna say maybe a few weeks, right? Or maybe a couple months. I'm
I
not
I
exactly
think
sure because I know the first time he's in there, they did a 30-day skip.
yeah. So I think by this point it kind of feels like about 2 or 3 months have passed,
Hmm.
but it's hard. It is hard to tell.
Yeah, and I'm sure they can't really tell it just because they don't really see the light of day. It's just
Yeah,
fluorescent lighting. It's like, oh, all right, our shift is over, time to go to bed. I'm sure they keep a count on themselves, but so yeah, it's very interesting because you got Cassian on one hand, who's been there a few months, who's aching to get out, and then you got Kino, who's kind of like accepted his lot there, and it's like, yeah, I'll just do what I need to do to get out. And Cassian's like, no, it's like I've got 6 years. No way, I'm going to be staying here for 6 years.
yeah,
And it seems like because he talks to the rest of the cellmates a lot, and they're probably just like, oh yeah, Cassian's talking about the prison break again. Yeah, whatever. But I think he truly needed to convince Kino because once Kino's on board, then everybody else will fall in line because I mean Kino's the leader. So
yeah. I mean, I had a different view to that because you could tell that some of the prisoners were sort of ready to escape as well,
mhm.
and I think it was Kino that was holding them back, um, not believing not believing that there was a problem, that everybody would be released.
Well, I mean, even in the last episode, they're like, "Oh, what happened on the other cell?" And Kino's like, "It's just rumors. It's just rumors."
Yeah, yeah, and then like we've said, as it progresses, you can see that in a struggle that Kino's having now, with trying to escape. Is it the right thing to do? What is going on? Until he snaps, the realization kicks in. He snaps, and that's it. That the plan is in motion for the next day.
Yeah, and we finally see what the heck Cassian is doing with that stupid pipe.
Yep, yep.
And
Good old water.
yeah, it's very interesting of how he came up with that plan or why he thought it would work. And it's a good thing he did because he became a little bit more aggressive with the thing. Like he was hitting it. He was like trying to use a lever to kind of break the pipe. And
Yeah,
it's basically just to flood the whole floor.
yeah. I mean, I think he was getting more aggressive as well because time was running out for him, and
The urgency.
yeah, if everybody's going to escape, it has to be done now. And he's using that bit of metal to try and cut into it, when in the end he uses the tool that he had hidden away to properly pry into the pipe, and that was it. Water was starting to come out. I am surprised though that none of the guards noticed that he was soaking wet.
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
when they came in, they're on a level above them, and it seemed there's only the two guards that came in, and so they were more focused on bringing in the new prisoner than scanning 100 people on the floor, and he was kind of towards the back. So
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
if they were up close, they'd probably be like, "Why the heck are you wet?"
yeah. No, I mean
But
that is true because he was quite well hidden because obviously he snuck under the platform as it was lowering to jam it. So I guess that was part of his plan. Whatever was going to happen anyway. But he managed to stay relatively hidden.
yeah, which is very interesting because like he was in plain sight for like a good part of it, but the guy was shooting at everybody further away from him, and so he got lucky being able to stay hidden the way that he was able to. And during this whole thing, Kino's yelling too. He's
Yeah,
giving orders, telling them to hold back, tell them when to attack, and then everybody basically listens to his direction. And it's very interesting because Cassian's the one that's been trying to convince everybody to do this prison break, and you would have thought that he would be the one that would be yelling orders and whatnot, but he still let Kino play his role.
yeah. I mean, don't forget as well though, Kino has got the louder voice, and in a
That is
situation
true.
like that, you want somebody with the voice to be giving the orders while Cassian's doing his part. He to me it came across as Cassian can't give orders while trying to hold on and climb up things because it's not gonna work. Whereas if you've got a man on the floor with a voice that is loud and commanding, that's the best way to do it.
That is true. It'd be kind of hard. Like, imagine you're trying to sneak up on somebody, but you're yelling orders behind the guy. It's like, how'd you get over here?
Yeah,
It's like completely destroy your whole uh, stealth mission if you're sitting there giving away your location.
yeah. So, I mean that was my thought on that whole scene was leave the guy with the loudest voice and shouting while Cassian can do the stealth stuff because it just works better. Because obviously Cassian's more able to do things like that instead of if roles were reversed, would Kino be able to climb up things?
That is true. And it's interesting that they only have two people there. And then I'm surprised that they didn't call for more backup the way they did. And but if I'm remembering correctly, the water shorted out the whole floor before they're able to do any of that.
Yeah, so they went to fry the floor because the prisoners jumped onto the tables, and that cut the power because a bit later on in the scenes you see another floor saying like, well, what's going on? Where's this water leak coming from? We need to fix
Yeah,
it. We need to sort it. So they are aware of something happening. It's just they don't know fully what. And if you're going to send a load of guards down there, it could be that they might think that someone else might try and escape if they do.
yeah. I guess they do kind of have to stay on their own floors to keep order there, and the rest of the facility wasn't aware of the power outage or even what's going on. And so
Yeah,
it's funny how once they actually get up, they just anytime they see a guard, it's like bam, kill them right on spot, no questions asked, until
yeah.
they get to like the main command center.
But then that does also then tie into the power doesn't panic
Yeah,
quote. Why send guards when they think that they can fix the problem themselves?
that is actually very true because it's like all we gotta do is just press a button and we'll fry every single one of them. It's like they'll just all get electrocuted. And it's like, okay, problem solved. And they really believe that they're in a position of power, not realizing that they have Cassian for an enemy.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to take a sidestep and say Cassian is one heck of a good shot. You know?
Yeah.
The way he takes out, he did he shoot someone's ankle or lower leg? That was
yeah.
And you know, I mean, we know he's a good shot anyway, but it was really shown in this that he means business, but also at the same time he doesn't want to really kill people until we get to that one guard where he just, you know, everybody's now trying to escape, the guard's getting up and he just shoots him without even looking. And I was like, yeah, fair play.
Nice little Han Solo move right there.
Yep.
But it's very interesting to kind of like see all these guys running around in like their prison uniforms, running around with guns. And then imagine like you being a guard and it's like you're so used to everybody being down on the floor, and it's like, yep, they're making their thing, and then you turn a corner and you see a bunch of prisoners running at you. It's like, oh, all right, not going this way.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're put in that position, what would you do? Because you could either run away if you know, as a guard, or you can stand and fight and try and shoot as many of them as possible. But you know that you're not coming out of this alive. Like a bunch of prisoners that are really ticked off with you aren't gonna be so polite and not shoot you. So it was an interesting thing to see on the screen.
Yeah, I would probably be like the guards that we see later, because I mean, the prisoners, their main focus is just getting out of there.
Yeah.
Like, they're not looking around to check every single room and slay every single trooper that's there. And they're running down the hallway, and then you just see it kind of like pans into another room, and it's a bunch of other guards just kind of like hiding underneath the windows, like telling everybody shh, like shh. And as everybody's running by, because they know they're not going to get out, so the best thing that they could do is just kind of hide. But I thought that was just really comical.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole power doesn't panic thing kind of then changes to power is scared.
The power roles have been reversed.
Yeah.
The prisoners have the power now. They're the ones not panicking. They're just getting out of there.
Yeah, they're quite calculated in what they do. You know, even going down to the other levels and freeing, you know, I know it wasn't all the levels initially that they went down to, but freeing, you know, telling other prisoners that we're breaking out, are you coming with or not? And then making their way up to level 8.
Yeah. All right, everybody, powers off, so you don't have to worry about getting fried. So we're getting out of here. Come with us. They can't stop you. We outnumber them. And it was and another part is like when they're trying to alert the whole facility, it's like, hey, time to leave, guys. Like, we're in control now. Cassian still has Kino do it, and Kino's kind of very nervous over the radio. And Cassian's like, bro, is that all you got?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude.
It's
you
like,
can do better.
You're used to shouting orders. Why now are you being so timid and quiet? But even the voice modulation thing that the guards were using, like when you see them as Kino and Cassian enter the control room, it's like, right, so you've actually got some of the wimpiest looking people in charge here, and they're giving orders via a voice modulation system to make it sound better.
More intimidating.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, like, really? You're the guy that's running things around here? Like, come on, bro.
But even Kino
I look more. No, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, even Kino managed to get a Han Solo kill in. I don't know if you
that's
picked up
right.
on that, but walked in and just shot someone straight away.
That is right. I saw it, but it didn't click with me until you just said it. Oh man, like we haven't really seen too many like action scenes like this, especially since the third episode, I believe. And I know we got a little bit of it in the Aldani, but something about this was like a little bit more exciting than a heist. I'm not sure why, but
yeah, I think this is one of the awkward things, because we know what happens to Cassian, so we know that one way or another he's getting out of that prison because Rogue One exists.
naturally,
which
yeah.
is fine. But it's the other characters that you get invested in as well. And I think because the prison break took up most of the episode, it just felt like it was seamless, because it didn't go from one situation to another. It was just the prison break, and then we had the additional bits sort of at the end, and then cutting back to how the episode ended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually very interesting because like it's like we don't get too many episodes that's just focusing on Cassian's story, because there's usually like a lot of jumping around on the other ones, and we kind of had just a little bit in this one, but they definitely spent a lot of time making this work, and to keep you.
Yeah.
They did it really well in keeping the suspense by doing that, because if you jump around too much, it's like, I know we see that a lot in like the films, like we have like 3 different things going on. We got the lightsaber battle, then we got the war that's going on, so it skips between the lightsaber duels and then it jumps to another, but the suspense is still going on because the tone is still the same. In this, it'd be really hard to. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing a prison heist, or not prison heist, a prison break, and keeping up the suspense, and then jumping over to Deidre for a 10-minute thing if we're just sitting in a office talking to people, and then it's like, okay, all right, anxiety levels down. Oh, all right, we're back to the prison break, and then it's like, it's really hard to bring back the suspense after something like that. So I really like that they focused a lot of the episode on a linear story.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Because I mean, for me, it would have ruined the tone of the episode, cutting between the different storylines that we're invested in now. And so I am glad that they had the one main plot point, which was the prison break, as one complete nigh on continuous sequence. Because you are right, if they'd sort of changed, added in the Deidre thing for 10 minutes halfway through, that's 10 minutes of a prison break that, yes, they could show what happens after the Deidre thing, but it makes no sense. Why cut off an episode, the bit then to jump to something else? Just let it play out naturally, which is what they did. And I think the way that it was directed was really well done in this episode, in the fact that it was just kept as a continuous thing.
Oh yeah, and another thing that I just remembered, speaking of like tone, the episode started off well, continuing from the last episode, because I know we all shed a tear for Mr. Ulof, but this episode you actually see him in the body bag headed out.
Yeah, and what's weird with that is that it was all going through the same way. You know, his body was being taken past all the workers.
Yeah, because it was on the work floor, right?
Was it the
I
work
can't
floor or was
remember.
it the? I thought it was the tunnel.
Oh, I
You know,
think it was the tunnel. Yeah.
yeah, because I think he kind of starts the going downhill in the workroom, but then it was the tunnel because Cassian's like trying to carry him, and yeah, I think it was there in the tunnel. But yeah, even that was sort of eerie to see that they don't. The Empire didn't think about it. That was almost a power play, showing the other prisoners that yeah, this guy died. This is basically what's going to happen to you.
Yeah, it's a really good reminder for the people there. It's like, okay, we want to leave, but we don't want to leave like that.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, that's how they're gonna leave if they don't do something. And it's very interesting too on how they actually decide to leave. Like, I figured that they would have had like some type of shuttle or ship on that bridge or whatever. But I remember when they first got there, they were kind of just dropped off on the lift.
yeah. I mean, I guess
And yeah, his
Britain.
buddy is being taken through. I'm watching the scene right now. It's actually he is being taken through the floor, which is a very interesting
Yeah,
way to go. Like,
because you could have taken him through the living quarters. Yeah, I mean it's morbid seeing your colleague's body being taken through there, but instead they go through the workers, and I'm trying to figure out, is it because the Empire didn't want to answer too many questions, or was it quite literally just a power play where they were like, yeah, this guy died, this will be you if you don't fall in line.
yeah, and I mean, they don't really need to hide it at this point because everybody knows that he died of a stroke. So there's really nothing like that's gonna scare anybody in that sense. I would think.
Yeah,
But still to take him past the workers, like you figured that they'd have a different route to go.
yeah, but I mean, looking at the way that the set design is, it looks like there is literally one way in, one way out, and
I
then
mean, that is the title of the episode, One Way Out.
well, yeah, not planned at all that, but I'm going to go with it.
Hey, but why not?
Yeah, but
But
no, I
speaking of
mean,
One Way Out,
yes,
jumping out into a watery ocean. Like just
yeah,
jumping out into the ocean, like from where they're standing, it's like if I got to the point, I'd be like, you expect me to jump how far down into water below me? And how long do I have to swim? It's like, yeah, and I know I want to be free, but it's like I could
yeah.
die down there too.
I'd risk it. I'd risk it. I mean, on that though, Andy Serkis's acting. Again, I know that we've said that every character in this is really well done, but just the way that he stands on the ledge and he's almost laughing because he's like, I can't swim. And they're like, what? But
Yeah,
on
I
that
felt bad
front,
for him. I wonder if he made
when
it out.
that I was just about to say that you don't see. I mean, obviously, Cass gets pushed off the platform with by the other prisoners escaping,
Yeah,
but
I
you
really
don't.
wanted to know what he was going to say to him before he got
Yeah,
pulled down.
but you don't see Kino. Even
Ah,
I don't know whether it was a mistake afterwards, because as you see them, jumping off the edge, the camera pans up to that platform, and Kino's not there. So I don't know whether he kind of walked back in and is potentially planning on setting other people free or getting a shuttle down or something. But I couldn't see him in the crowd. So either he got pushed off as well, or he's gone and hid.
yeah, or maybe he found a way to get off it
Yeah.
through a ship or something, because he is just standing there, and he on his speech he does tell everybody, it's like, hey, if somebody looks like they're lost or needs help, you keep them moving, you help them. And I'm wondering if anybody paid any attention to him on that. It's like, oh yeah, he said, if anybody's lost or stuck, let's help them. It's like, imagine, because I think that's probably what Cassian was gonna do. It's like, okay, jump with me. It's like, just hold on to me as I swim or something. I'm sure, or maybe he went back in and went to find something that floats.
I mean, I hope so. But
Because that'd
that's
be a
one of
very tragic ending for him.
yeah, getting all the way to the end, seeing natural light, and then that's it. But on that one as well, sort of skipping to the end of the episode without giving too much away on that one, you do see in the background patrol ships now searching for people. So maybe he's going to commandeer one of those, or I it's another character I'm invested in.
Yeah. So what happened to you, Kino? We want to know. Is he
Tell us.
safe? Is he safe? Is he alive?
Did
We
he
don't know.
did he jump off and try to swim?
Did he drown? Fall into a
Yeah,
watery grave?
yeah. But I mean, the final thing on the prison design, because I know in the last episode that we did,
Oh yeah, last episode was Sam's intro to architecture.
Yes, it was. More architecture time.
Let's go.
The design of the prison was very much in the style of the Empire logo.
Yeah, I did notice that too. I even noticed it on the machine that they're building, like the screws or like
Yeah,
the joints. It looked like the Empire signal or the Imperial symbol right there as well. I noticed that Star Wars does like to throw in a bunch of Easter eggs. It's like going to Disneyland and trying to find the hidden Mickeys.
yes,
Star Wars is more about where's the hidden Imperial logo. Because I know they did that for Revenge of the Sith, like where Vader was getting put together at the end,
yeah,
and that platform that he was on was lit up and designed like the Imperial logo. I know that one was very intentional. It was really cool to see.
yeah, and because I think Padme was very much sort of the same sort of situation, but with the I think it was the Rebel logo. I could be wrong on that one, but I think
One I actually didn't know.
I think they tried to mirror the two sides in the set design for that.
I mean, it would make sense if they did. Now I got to go back and watch it because I'm actually really curious about that one. Because that's a cool Easter egg.
Yeah, but yeah, so the architecture of it makes me think that the prison plan, that the prison wasn't there before the Empire took it over, and it was then designed to look, because what scares people, seeing giant Empire symbols on planets. So I'm kind of thinking the Empire built that place for one purpose.
That's
to
fair.
to
That makes
be the
sense because
prison.
I do know. Remember last episode we were discussing on if it was there or not, and if
Yeah,
it is in this design of the Imperial logo, then that pretty much answers the question right there.
yeah. I mean, it would make sense if the Empire took a random planet and stuck a prison on it, because it seems like that's what the Empire would do.
Yeah, I know that in some of the comics and other stuff, like they build prisons on asteroids and stuff like that too. So they do it in locations that it's gonna be hard to get out or find, especially a place like this. Like they're building stuff, and Cassian's like he's like, yeah, they need us because whatever we're building, they need. And so why not throw a facility off where nobody's gonna see it and draw no attention and get your work done the way that you need to.
Yeah, I mean, just jumping sort of back to the prison break and music as well. The two combined, there were musical notes in there that was like the higher up that they got in the prison. So when they was making their way up to level 8, the more hopeful the music was becoming. It went from sort of a very, this is a generic sort of prison break type thing, to this could actually work. Okay, this is working. Okay, we're actually going to get out. And I don't know if you picked up on that, but it definitely came across that way to me.
It did. I actually did notice that because it got more hopeful, and it kind of helps put you in the mindset of these prisoners as they're leaving. It's like, okay, you feel like you're part of them. It's like you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, and the music is driving you towards it.
Yeah, I think the music in this episode, like we've said, is even it's very emotive and drives you to feel what the prisoners are feeling while they're escaping. And I think it was very well done in, and I know I say that quite a lot about Andor, to be fair, but in this episode particularly, the musical score was just spot on. It wasn't overpowering. It wasn't distracting. It enhanced the scenes that the music was in.
Yeah, this one actually felt like a real soundtrack. Like I know we got the Mandalorian theme song and how it's used in that project, but I actually kind of felt like I was actually watching a sci-fi film on this one. It's like it wasn't like overproduced. The music was just like perfect.
Yeah, because even in other Star Wars projects that that are out there, the music can be quite distracting. If it's sort of just that wrong tone for the scene, it can ruin an entire scene. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking of like Duel of the Fates or Anakin versus Obi-Wan. The music for those scenes fit perfectly, but there are other scenes where the music's just that little bit too much.
And I don't want to throw this under the bus, but like speaking like how it can make or break a scene, like the revisit to Obi-Wan versus Vader. I wasn't too keen on the music choice they did for that one.
Yeah, that. See, I think that's the valid point is that, the fight scene, you take out the music, it is a good scene, but you add the music, and there's something about it that is just that little bit too. It's almost not right, or they try and fit it in, but it's a hard one to explain, because obviously each composer, each director has a different vision. But with Andor, throughout the whole series, the music's been done in such a way that it's so subtle at times that you don't really realize it's there, which plays to this scene. I mean, even in the beginning of this episode, where you see the workers, the prisoners.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Well, true. But the music sort of stops, but the way that in fact, it's done twice in this episode. The way that the noise, that sort of like background noise, then carries on the music to a degree. It all flows.
No, I absolutely agree. And that's what I really like about the soundtrack for Andor is it really directs the scene, but it's also very subtle while it's doing it.
Yeah, and not to throw Mandalorian under the bus, but even some of the musical notes or tones in that, I think, are too much, because it's trying to be like the very mysterious Mandalorian theme that they alter throughout the episodes, and that.
And it's also a different tone of a show too.
Yeah.
So for like Andor, you need something a little bit more subtle, like, and more subtle like this one. Whereas in Mandalorian, it's a little bit more. I'd say Mandalorian's more family oriented, so the music and stuff can be a little bit more free, while still maintaining the Star Wars feel. But Andor is a completely different tone. It's darker. It's a little bit more mature, and I don't know. It just needs something that's different from everything else.
Yeah. And like I say, I think the way that the entire first season of Andor has been scored is just perfect. I've not found in any of the episodes that we've recapped a single problem with the music side.
Yeah, I think I was talking to you before, and I said it kind of gives me like a little bit of a Tron and Interstellar feel with the music. And Interstellar is probably actually one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. So maybe that's why I'm like enjoying the music here so much, because it definitely reminds me a lot of it.
And that's the thing. It just works.
And it doesn't have to be like they use it at the right times too, because there are scenes where there is no music, and they let the scene kind of direct how you're gonna feel, and not really use the music, but on scenes that really need it. Not like they need it, but to add the extra suspense. Like, just see this whole Prison Break without the music that building up the way it did. I'm sure the emotions going through it would be way different watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. This is like behind the scenes time now. After we finished recording the last week's episode, you said about the.
I'm talking about the ceremony scene.
Yes, yeah. You take out the music from that, and it's awkward.
It's very awkward. If any of you guys are listening, you guys haven't seen that scene, type up a Yavin 4 ceremony scene without the music. Trust me, it changes it completely. So I
Yeah.
think they added, whoever did that edit, they added like people coughing in the background or whatnot.
Yeah. It was sort of like everyday sort of human noise being made, and it's yeah, definitely go see the scene if you haven't already, and you'll get where we're coming from.
Yeah, music. I want to say like TV shows, movies, and stuff like that. Without the music, I don't think would work quite well. And so I like that they paid attention not only to the writing, the videography, but they also made sure that the music fit with this style as well.
Yeah. And it goes to show how much of a difficult job every composer in every TV show and movie, they have such a difficult job, because one wrong piece, or one wrong score, that's the wrong tone or something, and that's it. That's an entire scene
Unless
ruined.
you're John Williams, because
Unless you're John Williams, and then whatever you do is perfect.
like here's a more behind the scenes stuff for like how he does his work is that when I think it's back when George Lucas, I don't know if I'm sure he did it well with George Lucas as well, but I know on some of the newer stuff too, like he wouldn't make his soundtrack until he saw the scene. Like he'd get the scenes, he'd play it up, and then he'd just start composing right then and there.
Yeah.
Extremely
And
fascinating.
I think that's how a lot of modern at least movie composers work now. Because when Lord of the Rings came out, which again features
Oh,
Andy
another epic
Serkis,
soundtrack.
good, I know. But the some of the behind the scenes extras was about Howard Shore, who did the composing and the soundtrack, and he's very much the same as John Williams, that he'd watch the scene to get the sort of tone and the right feel, and again, the soundtrack speaks for itself. It works.
Yeah, really, really well done with this series. So I'm not even sure who the composer for the show is. Let me Google that real quick. Hats off to Nicholas Brittle. I don't know if that's if I'm over pronouncing his last name, but Nicholas Brittle did a really, really good job with the music for the series. I would actually like to see what else he did, or hope that he does a more Star Wars stuff, because I like his style.
Yes, I'm just seeing what other soundtracks he's done. To be fair, there's on StarWars.com there is an interview with him, which I've just had a quick skim through, and it's worth a read. I mean, the first question that StarWars.com asks is, the series is is a really grounded take on Star Wars. As the composer, how much does that impact your work? And he goes on and says, about the directors of each episode, and the writers and everything. So definitely well worth a read on that one. His musical filmography is so varied, and I quite like that, because you get some composers that kind of stick to one genre, but you can tell as you're going through the list of tracks and soundtracks that they've scored, that they become more and more similar. And I mean, luckily, going back onto John Williams as well, even though he's sort of a fan favorite of Spielberg and Lucas, the music's all different.
Yeah.
Apart from, and this is a fun fact, watch the Quidditch match in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, because John Williams was scoring that and some bits of Attack of the Clones at the same time, and the music got mixed up. So there's hints of Star Wars music in Harry Potter.
That's very interesting. It was like was it who did can't think the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. Well, some of the stuff that he's done, like you jump into his other movies, sound very similar. Because I know what was it? Gladiator sounded very similar to some of the other stuff that he's done in his other projects.
Yes. Yeah.
But what a digression, right?
I know. Just what, like, just talking about music. I mean, but that is the thing. Music is so emotive, and getting it back on track.
Yeah, and they use it really well for Andor.
Yes, definitely.
And I think I was telling you, I had a buddy that's like, me and my buddy, we always talked about soundtracks, and our friend was like, why do you guys care so much about soundtracks? He's like, you're there to watch the movie, not listen to the music. And it's like, no, dude, like the music is what tells you how to feel in a certain way. It's a way to connect. And that's why they always say music is a universal language, because everybody can connect to it in such a way that words can't.
Yes. Yeah.
But the Prison Break was definitely a lot of fun. But we got a couple other little parts of the episode, not too much on the other characters. They kind of just toss them in there just for a little bit, like Deidre, for instance. Like we find out about the rebel pilot, and it's like, oh yeah, they fell for our little ploy. They thought that it was just a hydraulic failure, and that's why he died.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting scene to see, because you kind of see the darker side, no pun intended, of the Empire. That they are willing to cover up their own tracks, despite the fact that they don't really need to. I mean, they've got big space triangles with lots of weapons. Nobody's going to really argue about that unless you're part of this little rebellion. Which even at this point, they're not sure if it is an actual thing, or if it's going to phase out naturally.
Yeah, and it might as well, because I mean, even with Mon Mothma's part, like she's struggling to find a good banker that's able to do what she wants, and I think we finally understand why the daughter was in so many episodes and stuff to make us know that she has a daughter. Yeah, and I think it's for this scene right here.
Oh, I mean, what a scene! I immediately did not like the financier.
Yeah, I didn't like Davo at all. The guy was kind of creepy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's the again, sort of the English accent that's doing it, but the way he was coming across, and the things that he was not, it wasn't specifically said, but it was implied. It's like it's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Chandrilla has a tradition, and Mon Mothma's like, I don't care for it. This isn't happening, because she's trying to find a banker that's able to do what she needs to do, because Tate is raising a lot of questions, and then the Empire is putting so many different restrictions that it's hard to really do anything. And it's just very interesting, because she's like, so how much are you gonna charge? She's like, oh no, you're not gonna pay me. She's like, no, I insist. No, you don't need to pay me. She's like, well, I don't like owing people favors, so you're taking money. And then that's when he's like, you got a daughter, right? I got a son.
Yeah, that was
Like,
kind of a step too far, and was just too creepy.
yeah, it's
Especially,
like arranged marriages and stuff like that, but it's kind of
yeah,
like a prince and a princess being. It's like, okay, we got two kingdoms, so we'll become more powerful if we unite the bloodline. But my Mothma's not about that.
yeah. Because I mean, initially, while Davo was being sort of shady enough, anyway, he was making some valid points that if it's your money, why shouldn't you be able to move it around? Stuff like that was being said, and it was like, okay, I don't know what to feel about this character now, because he's he was mentioned in the last episode, and the only reaction we got from that was from Mon Mothma. It was like, okay, we probably shouldn't like him, but he was making sense that it is your money. We have a way of doing it that is undetectable, and it's like, okay, that's he wants to help. And then he threw that curveball by talking about his son, and his 14-year-old son, and Mon Mothma's 13-year-old daughter. I think she's 13.
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
And yeah, and it was like, okay, so that's your real intent. You don't want to
Hmm.
help at all. You just want access to more money eventually. Then,
Yeah, you're
or
just looking for more power.
you want your family to have money, and so okay, that's why you're sketchy.
Yeah, if you're willing to use children for your own gain.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, comes in play with Zhang or Lonnie later, because he's trying to make decisions to get out of things because of his kids.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, that in itself was such a twist. I mean, you could kind of see it coming in a way that maybe somebody would have been a rebel sympathizer, I guess would be the right thing to say, or a mole. But
Double agent, I believe.
yes, double agent. That's the perfect way to put it. But having it as Lonnie, I wasn't expecting that.
No, and he's like, I want out. And it's like, well, no. You're going to keep doing your job. You're going to keep telling us what to do. Or you're going to keep giving us secrets that you shouldn't have. And you're going to keep us informed. And so I think this is where Luthen finds out his name is Axis, apparently. Did he give him
Yeah.
that name? Or is that something that Deidre came up with? Or did he come up with that himself?
I think it was Deidre that came up with it, because they had no other name
To call him?
for him. Yeah. And you can't go into these big meetings and say, oh yeah, there's some guy that is trying to organize it. If you make up a code name and give it to and put it out there,
Yeah.
it's gonna stick, and that's what it'll be. But yeah, poor Lonnie. I mean, Luthen's there, and he's like, congratulations on your daughter.
Yeah.
And Lonnie's like, how, what? Like, he's visibly confused, and sort of immediately feels backed up against a wall. I mean, he was in an elevator, so I guess he was quite literally backed up against a wall. But it was like the conversation progressing. It was like it was about a year or so that they last properly spoke, but Luthen's keeping tabs on everything that's going on.
Yeah, and we actually learn a little bit more about Luthen's character at this point too. Like, there's a couple things that you kind of see a little bit more darker side of him.
Yeah, I really want to know what Luthen's past is for him to, because he gives that sort of big empowered monologue to Lonnie, and it's about like, he's using the tools of evil to beat the evil, but it's like, how did he get here? What is his story?
Yeah, because we know that he has the antique shop, but that's about it. And that he's got connections to Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
But other than that, we don't know too much about him. And I guess we kind of, in his whole monologue, like, Lonnie is like, okay, well, I want out of this. I've got a kid, and you're asking me to sacrifice everything for the rebel cause. And Luthen's like, no, I need heroes. And so Lonnie kind of is like, well, what are you giving up? And I'm really curious what he really did give up, because I know he gives a monologue of saying he sacrificed being calm, being kind, his having family, and having love, and giving up peace. But he must have had something before he gave that all up, and there's got to be something driving him. Maybe he did lose somebody, and that's what's driving him, and that's why he's saying, I've sacrificed all this, so I'm putting my all into it.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know why I think this, but even from the first watching of this episode, I think that maybe he had a hand sort of in the Death Star plans as well. Maybe somewhat unwillingly or unknowingly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the Death Star stuff seems very very well hidden
Yeah.
until Rogue One. I think everybody that worked on it is either an Imperial soldier or they're stuck in the facility of where they're building it.
Yeah. But
Or they could be like Cassian and they're just building parts and then shipping them off and having no idea what it's for.
yeah. But I mean, even, to me, it's like Luthen might not have known that it was specifically Death Star plans that he was making. He could have just been designing simple, what he thought would be simple parts for something else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Empire, and even, because I mean, we see Palpatine in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith looking at plans, or is it? No, do we see Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones? I think.
Yeah, giving it to Poggle the Lesser, I think,
Yes.
when
Yeah.
he's fleeing the Geonosis.
Yeah. So they've had these plans for quite some time, and
Yeah.
maybe, Luthen's backstory is that he helped in some way, shape, or form, sort of similar to Jyn Erso's dad. Kind of designing it, but in Luthen's case, maybe not knowing what he was doing.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Because obviously at that point it was pre-Empire. It didn't exist. It wasn't a thing.
That is true. So I really hope that we get more information on this character, because he is very, very interesting.
Yeah. Well, we've then got sort of one more jump, and that's to Ferrix.
Oh yeah, that was just like a very small spot too. And it was
Yeah.
what's her face? I can't remember her name. I think it's Cal.
Um,
Oh, Kaz, that's her name. Kaz.
yes. Yes. Yeah. So we're on Ferrix. I mean, we're told that Cassian's mum's not wanting to take her medication, and that her health is declining. And I mean, the first thing that you think of then is she going to make it to the end of this season?
Yeah. Well,
And
Cassian, you got to see her one more time.
yeah, and then you've got Kaz, who is kind of sort of waiting for Cassian to come back. In that, if he finds out that his mum's health is failing, then she's going to have her. Kaz is going to have her chance to kill Cassian.
Little do they know that he's staging a prison break at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thing, because obviously they don't know that. So Kaz has been on Ferrix waiting for Cassian to return
For
and
at least a couple months.
Yeah, and it's like we said last episode with Deidre when she was doing the interrogation scenes. Nobody there knows that Cassian's in prison, so they've kind of all been on Ferrix at one point, waiting for Cassian to return when he's locked up. The Empire's technically done their job and actually arrested him and locked him up. And I find that very interesting that there is, that there's no intel on Cassian's whereabouts.
Because right now he's known as Keith.
Yes.
Because not even his cellmates know his name.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point, because they don't really say his name at all in the prison.
They said it once in this episode. They said "Hurry up, Keith" or something like that. It was right before they were about to turn on, right where they're at their beds and they're about to turn on the floor, and Cassian was waiting for something, and they're like, "Hurry up, Keith!" And then I think that's the only time that we've really heard his name there.
Yeah, so they know what name he's going by now, but they don't know
who he is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you've heard of the Aldani heist? Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I'm just going to blatantly come out and say that.
Yeah, kind of a big deal.
No sign of Cyril, though.
We didn't see him at all this episode, and I'm pretty sure, like I said, I forget what the rest of the season is like. So I'm assuming we'll see more of him a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they didn't try and shoehorn him into the episode.
It would have been too much.
Yeah, because at least, with the prison break, that was one continuous thing, and then you had sort of more updates based on the previous episodes, and that worked fine. But I think with Cyril, because it would either be him sat at the table eating breakfast, or him at work, or potentially stalking. I'm glad that they didn't have him in there, but
same.
But at the end of the episode, you see two people running onto the beach.
It's gonna be Cassian, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was the dude from Rogue One. Yes. I think they escaped together.
Yeah.
I didn't get a good look at his face.
Another Harry Potter tie-in, though. He was in, Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just random fun fact number 2.
Very true. Got a lot of fun facts this episode.
I mean, that's the thing. This episode for me flew by because it was just one continuous story, basically. And
a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the other episodes dragged a bit, because they didn't. That's the honest truth. They didn't drag at all. But this one, I think because it was just the one continuous story, it felt like time just flew by. And, you know, again, like you say, there was so much going on. I mean, again, you know, Andor, the writing on it is commendable. Like, it's top tier writing.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews are giving it like 10 out of 10 and stuff like that. So this episode was really, really good, and can't wait to see what the final 2 episodes are, because we're done with the prison arc. So we got 2 more episodes left, and we'll see where it goes from there. So yeah, that's gonna be about it for us today, guys. Definitely come back next week. We'll be continuing on to episode 11, and we're gonna see what's going on with Cassian now that he's out of the prison. So definitely come back next week. But before we go, guys, just remember, head down to the description below where you can find our link tree, and go follow us on our Instagram page. Come find us on Discord. Talk with some of the other fans and community that we have there. And also be sure to check out our merch. We're with entertainmentearth.com, and so we got a bunch of cool Black Series stuff, lightsabers, and all that other fun stuff. And then we do have our own Teespring where we've done our own designs for some cool shirts. So be sure and check those out. And with that, we will see you guys next week. May the Force
be with you
always.